Alrighty guys, so let's go ahead and get some sentiment analysis done. So one thing that you guys may not be familiar with is what sentiment analysis is. Sentiment analysis is a machine learning technique that uses specific algorithms to figure out whether or not a text or a certain message can be classified as a certain label. That's pretty abstract. You can learn more about it online. What we're going to be using it for is it's going to take a text message that we send to our server and use some basic testing stuff that we're going to give it from TextBlob to determine whether or not our text that we sent it is a good text, like we were happy when we sent this, if we were kind of like in between, like we were just okay, and then if we were angry or mad. A good way to describe this is recommender systems. Like sentiment analysis is used a lot in determining whether or not a product review is a good product review or a negative product review. It's kind of like what we're going to be using here, only instead of product reviews, we're going to be reviewing our day. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to create a very basic URL that's going to do some very basic sentiment analysis, just so you guys can get familiar with what sentiment analysis looks like. It's a lot more complicated than this. We're going to be using a toolkit that does a lot of it for us, but there's a lot of math and a lot of stuff you can do that's really cool with sentiment analysis. But for just the purposes of these videos, we're not going to really go into it. So let's create a new route, app.route, and we're going to call this basic sentiment. And then this is just going to be a GET request because we don't really need to pass in any parameters just yet. Def basic sentiment. Create a function. Okay. So here we are going to create something called a text blob. Now a text blob is just initializing the object for text blob, the package up here, to do a sentiment analysis on. It already has a model trained, and that model is going to basically classify the text that we're going to set right in here as either a good or negative or somewhere in between. And the value is actually between 0 and 1. So a value of 0.5 can be classified as like you're in the middle of the mood, like you're okay. Whereas a classification of 0.97 is a very positive review, and conversely, a classification of 0.01 is a very negative review. And I'll show you how to set all that stuff up. So we're going to say, I had a good day. Okay, so that's going to be our text blob. And then we're going to set a variable, sentiment, to our text blob variable.sentiment. That's as easy as it is to get the sentiment analysis. Then we're going to set up a couple of if statements. So if our sentiment, misspelled sentiment dot polarity. This is how we're going to get the classification of our sentiment analysis. If that is above 0.6, so if we are above, if we are in 0.6 to 1, that means, or at least in this particular program, what I'm going to say it means is we are in a good mood. So we're going to set, actually, let's go ahead and create a variable message real quick. Message. We're going to set message equal to, wow, I am glad you are having a good day. So this is when we're having a good day. We send something like this. This message is actually going to trigger this message right here. But let's say if we weren't really having a good day, we were having an okay day, and we wanted to pick that up on our sentiment analysis, we would say, okay, well, if you're not above 0.6, if you're not equal to or above 0.6 in your sentiment polarity, are you above 0.3? If you are, which means if you're in between 0.3 and 0.6, we're going to say, okay, I hope your day gets better. So that's going to be, oopsies. That's what happens when you don't buy Sublime Text. random pop-ups. So that's going to be when we're having an okay day. You know, our sentiment analysis said that our message was somewhere in between really good and really bad, but it wasn't really on either side. Then we're going to say else. And this else statement is going to be when we're having a bad day because we're in between 0 and 0.3. And we're going to say, I am sorry to hear that. I hope you get, I hope you start feeling better. Alright, so now we have our messages, our sentiment polarity set up. I kind of initialized this variable pretty fast, but it's just because it's standard practice to set a variable before a bunch of if statements, although our message will always be set because we have an else statement. But just in case, then we're going to return our message onto our URL, our web page that these people are going to be pulling up, or that you're going to be pulling up. And it should work perfectly. If you did not close your Flask app, if you did not stop running your Flask app, it'll actually update your code as you hit save, just as mine has. So I actually don't have to restart my Flask server. I can just go straight to my Firefox browser and type in basic sentiment and check it out. Wow, I'm glad you're having a good day. I don't have to pass anything into this because we set the message that we want to do a sentiment analysis on in here. And it's going to, again, get the sentiment here. And then we're checking the polarity to get an actual measure of how strong our sentiment is. If we have a strong sentiment, we return this message. If we have an okay sentiment, like I'm having an okay day, it's going to get a okay sentiment polarity, like a medium. And then if we said I'm having a terrible day, it's going to get a bad sentiment reading, a bad sentiment polarity, and it's going to return this. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video.